This isn't an official episode of our series James Bond Will Return, which is ticking away pretty well now. This is just a short chance for Tom and me from Really 007 to just join in with a bit of the chat and the casting rumours for the next James Bond, because just this week it seems like a more significant rumour's been circulating that the actor Jack Lowden, or Jack Lowden, however you say it, is maybe in like advanced talks, or is in. I've seen it written that he's in, in the next round of auditions, or he's advanced onto the next round, or something like that. So it's not confirmation that he's Bond. It's a rumor that he's got to the next round, basically. So of course we're not getting too overexcited. We're not going straight in, but it's certainly a talking point. So we thought we'd chip in. Lots of people have kind of jumped on it, seeing it to be trusted kind of rumor.
Yeah.
Really, it came from Richard Osman, who's like a TV personality, author, who kind of revealed that he's Jack Lowden's in this position. I mean, firstly, Tom, how true do you think it is?
Well, sometimes it's the kiss of death, isn't it? As soon as someone's named like that. But to be fair, Jack Lowden's had his name around for a few years now, on the periphery, not one of the main names like Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then more latterly it's been Callum Turner and Jake Bilordi, hasn't it? But he actually came to our knowledge a bit more because we interviewed a guy called Ian Pirrie, who played the creep, the guy in the wheelie chair in Die of the Day, and he's a a really good Scottish actor. So he has a bit of a soft spot for Jack, and he worked with him in that film, wasn't it, Harry? You saw it was on Netflix.
Yeah, Caliber,
Yeah, it's a good film that actually, a good thriller.
really good film. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Ian was pretty scary bad in that, but Jack Lowden was that's not a spoiler. Jack Lowden was one of the main the main guys in it, and it's probably about 2018, is it? It's a few years ago, so he was still
Yeah.
fairly young then.
Barbara Broccoli is probably the greatest producer I've ever worked for,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I remember being in my little trailer, knocking the door, and this good-looking lady was standing outside my door. Oh, yeah. And she went, "Yeah, hey, Ian, do you fancy coming for a cup of coffee? Just have a wee chat or whatever." I went, "All right, yeah." Didn't have a clue, didn't know who she was.
All
She
right.
knew,
Okay.
she knew who I was. And she started speaking, and she knew a little bit about my very short career at the time. She knew bits about some of the work that I'd done and had seen me in something. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, we had a lovely chat, and then she started speaking about her dad and stuff, and I went,
Oh,
"My God, this is Barbara Broccoli here."
Wow.
Very supportive of a lot of young actors. In fact, there's a young actor in that play that, I don't know if I should say this. Yeah, we'll say this. Good friend, very good friend of mine, who I think, and I've said it for years. In fact, if it had been 5 years ago, I'd have asked you to put a wee bet on Jack Lowden.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But she's met him. He won the Ian Charleston Award as best young up and coming young actor. And then he did Chariots of Fire, which Barbara Broccoli produced.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And yeah, I would say he's maybe slightly too young. Maybe not this Bond, but couple of Bonds down the line, I would say he's a definite.
Well, they're talking about the next Bond being the 30s. So,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a chance, isn't there?
Sounds perfect age. Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
want someone who can be Bond for quite a long time, don't they? And he could do that, couldn't he?
Yeah. Whether he would do it, I don't know. I mean, he's already got a lot of awards, Jack, and his partner's Saoirse Ronan. You know that.
She's not a bad actor, is she?
Yeah, she's all right.
She's all right.
She's done all right for herself.
She's up and coming.
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of her short films.
He seems a pretty likable screen presence. I haven't seen everyone's seen Slow Horses. It seems like very un-Bond on paper, not an anti-Bond, but well, they're not meant to be very good at the jobs, but their MI6 have been pretty hopeless in the last few Bond films, haven't they? So,
yeah. Slow double O's.
yeah.
Same. I've not seen him in all the things. His name is one that's kind of grown and grown and grown. There's a few things I've seen. The Caliber, which you mentioned, he is the lead character in that, and it's an excellent film, and he's excellent in it. I probably first came aware of him in Dunkirk, and he was great in that as well. And then he's also in Mary, Queen of Scots.
Oh yes, yeah,
he takes his role
really good. Yeah,
takes his role really, really well in that. So everything I've seen him in, he's always been fantastic. And it probably wasn't until Ian Pirrie mentioned him that I thought,
Yeah,
oh right, that's quite interesting. Because if I'm being honest, and maybe it's my really traditional babyish view of James Bond and what James Bond looks like, he's not someone I would have considered or suggested for Bond, because in my view, and I also don't have very good views on what makes a man attractive. I've always found it difficult, but in my point of view, I've never seen him as someone who's striking, and
yeah,
I've always thought James Bond would be. But it depends what James Bond they're creating, doesn't it? They might not want. This isn't me being cruel to Jack Lowden. Obviously, he is a handsome chap. There's no question about that. Maybe he hasn't got that striking quality, but I think what he does have for me is from obviously great acting performances, a talented actor, but I think he'll have the likability factor as
yeah,
well. He's not a controversial looking person by any means. He's not controversial in any kind of his outside life or anything like that. He's someone who I would trust with the role, who I think would give it his best shot and everything. So my feelings are a bit mixed, and I'm not negative about it, but I don't know if I'm cock a hoop yet. It's
yeah.
probably someone who you'd kind of have to see in the tuxedo, and I'm sure as they get closer to filming, if it were to be him, you might see some images of him looking more Bond, perhaps showing off his physique a bit more, or something like that. But at this stage, I'm not against it. I'm mostly for it. Yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Well, is that fair, Tom? I don't want to be
Yeah,
negative. I don't want to be
I
too
think we've got
positive.
to have
I don't
that
know.
attitude, haven't we, going forward? Because, people will always go back to the Daniel Craig casting and how unfair the press treatment was then. So until you see him actually in the part, unless he's like, I don't know, he's so different and such an awful person
Mm.
out, in his private life or something, you should be given a chance. Of course, you should. Even then, it doesn't really matter what they're like outside the role until they get the role. I think we do need more of an ambassador, and there's absolutely no reason to think somebody like Jack Lowden would be anything but that. But yeah, I mean, he is 36, so that is probably in the
Mm.
wheelhouse. I mean, that's a very good age for me. That'll be
Yeah,
perfect. He'd be what, 37, 38 by the time the film comes out, which of course Daniel Craig was 38. So it's certainly not old. I mean, it's ridiculous. He would have been about the right age, I think. It's just these
mm.
recent more rumours were that it was going late 20s, early 30s. So, but how long's a piece of string? And he does look very young for his age. That's the only thing I'd say. I think he's someone who will get better looking in terms of more rugged and, I don't know,
Yeah, yeah,
weathered when he gets a bit old. In about 10 years, I think he'll look
yeah,
extremely Bond. There was that. Was it someone saying he looks a bit like cross between Simon Pegg and Ewan McGregor at the moment? But
yeah,
not saying
yeah.
that's a bad thing. But yeah,
No, no.
he's blonde as well. Why has no one mentioned that?
Well, this
Actually,
is it. We're there again, aren't we? Where kind of, and I've been very guilty of it, where you've got these stereotypical expectations of dark and handsome or
yeah,
whatever. But we should know that that's not exactly how it should be, and we should know that casting Bond shouldn't always, and it hasn't always been obvious. It's not always been on a plate. Everyone could have guessed it. And I think I don't want to, you know, be proven to be speaking too earlier, but maybe people like Jacob Elordi now, they're getting too recognizable in some kind of way, like that kind of too striking, too well known.
yeah,
Whereas Jack Lowden is just below that, I'd say.
yeah, yeah,
He's not in that same category as the likes of Jacob Elordi and Aaron Taylor Johnson. Him and Callum Turner perhaps are in a similar kind of place, but I mean, if I were to compare those two, I'd see Jack Lowden as perhaps the more established actor,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
between Jack Lowden and Callum Turner. But even though I might not have guessed it myself, there's always something about the casting of James Bond where you want to be and you expect to be proven wrong. You want to be shown
yeah.
something that you hadn't thought of. You don't want to be able to have anticipated, guessed, and you don't want the casting and the news and the portrayal of Bond to be predictable. And I think this would be on the good side of unpredictable, I'd say.
Another thing which you could compare him to Callum Turner with is he's like less famous than his wife,
Yeah,
Which of
Yeah,
Callum, I know that who cares about stuff like that, but in terms of the
yeah.
commerciality of it and that sort of thing. But yeah, of course, Callum Turner's now married to Dua Lipa. I think Jack Lowden is married to Saoirse
I'm
Ronan.
not sure. I'm not
They're
sure.
not married. Okay, well they've
But
been together
yeah,
a
no,
long
I
time.
think I think they might be. I just
Yeah,
can't.
and obviously she's I can't. I
Yeah.
don't know how she's not won an Oscar yet, but I'm sure she will. But she's obviously a very big actress since
Well,
she's been very young. So yeah.
interestingly, if we're talking about that, at the time of casting, was Rachel Weisz more were Rachel Weisz and Daniel Craig married
No,
at
no,
that stage? No.
they've only been married, or say only, 10 years maybe. Certainly
Right.
long after
Okay.
I
Okay.
think
So
he
it's
had a
not
different
that is a
wife when
different
he
story then.
was Bond. Yeah,
But it is interesting, in the modern world of celebrity social media, juggling your public appearances, being desirable,
yeah,
coming across as a gentleman, those will be things that fans will want to see from whoever plays James Bond. And I think, from my knowledge of Jack Lowden, he would be all those things. I think he
100%.
appears to be a gentleman, professional, and yeah. So, yeah, I'd be very pleased in that respect. But like you said at the very start of this video, is it the kiss of death to get your name put out there at this stage?
Yeah,
When you're getting so close, and you almost worry that maybe they were going to cast him, but because the rumors got out, they might have to pull the plug. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
You just
yeah,
it's difficult when names are getting revealed, and we do know we've heard from, I think it was from Amy Pascal, was it, who said that it would be a good bet for the casting of Bond to be known by the end of the year.
yeah,
And that's still like 4 months away happening, and they're confident
yeah.
that there is an end point to this audition process, and they will be hiring an actor very soon.
I think that's happened since our last recording of James Bond Return. That Amy Pascal statement, which is another sort of, I don't know, an insight maybe into what's going on. We always think the one step ahead of whatever they say in statements. I know it wasn't an official statement, of course. It was an answer to a question. But it'd be very unlikely now that Bond wouldn't be named by the end of the year. If she said that, then it's either going to come then or earlier, which is that's
Yeah,
pretty, So
yeah,
we're not actually that far away, and it might mean that those names are now worst case scenario down to three or four. I don't know. We've heard rumours that there was the wide casting thing going on, and now it's down to the final or the second stage. But all these names, they know them anyway. It's not like they're unknowns, are they? And I think one thing I'd say is, which again I've not heard anyone say, Jack Lowden, of course, is Scottish, and I think a few people are like, "Oh, how good!" Going back to the beginning with Sean Connery. Sean Connery's he's the only actor who hasn't. He's just done a Scottish accent. He's not like Pierce Brosnan. I don't know
yeah,
what his accent is, but it's
yeah. Timothy Dalton.
would Jack Lowden, because obviously in loads of stuff we've seen him in, he's done an English. He does a great English accent. So
Yeah,
would he be the first actor to change his accent for the part? I don't know. I don't know.
that's an
Like
interesting
Patrick
point.
Gibson did. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and Patrick Gibson did so well, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think the expectation now would be for an accent change. I think
Yeah.
things like Sean Connery doing it back then and being the first Bond, not knowing necessarily how successful things would be,
Yeah.
I don't think, perhaps as much emphasis was put on getting the accent right, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Jack Lowden would play this totally
Yeah.
English. The thing is, whether it's nonsense or whether it's true, this is what's happening because Bond 26 is the wheels are in motion. Sparks are flying, rumors are circulating. Like we've said in numerous episodes now, we think that the production, those involved with the production, are a few steps ahead of what they tell us.
Yeah.
So it could be that they have appointed someone, and it could be that they've allowed this leak to
Yeah.
kind of throw us. You just don't know. Although it's come from Richard Osman, it'd be quite an unusual tactic to play that, but unpredictable. So everything's with a pinch of salt, but I do like the excitement that we're clearly getting closer to finding the man to play 007.
It's probably the one which I've just been sitting back, taking notice of all the opinions, and I think it's been the most well received suggestion
Yes.
on. So, like Jacob Elordi, obviously people have a go at his height, but then have a go at you for having a go at Daniel Craig's height. Anyway, that's another thing. Yeah. So, and the fact that he's Australian, can't, even though he can do any accent, but
Yeah.
including Yorkshire, I thought he did a good Yorkshire accent. Callum Turner is probably an acquired taste looks wise. Some people might think he's very Bond, some people might think he's not. Jack Lowden isn't that sort of striking hunk of a man, but is like particularly his face is very, very like you can picture him, as Bond. I can actually picture it. I do think he would adapt, and I think even if it's as subtle as his hair's a bit darker, stuff like that, that will put away any. But not that there has been any complaints about that. Yeah, I think, and he's actually. I looked at him. He's 6'1". I thought he was smaller than that. So that's probably the perfect height, isn't it? Really, to be James Bond. So he's got an awful lot going for him. I think the main things going for him is that first and foremost, he's an actor, not a celebrity. Second, that he is in stuff that people like you say, Dunkirk, Slow Horses, particularly. And then thirdly, the fact that he's not really that known other than as that guy from that thing. So I think it's somebody who Eon would certainly be looking at now if they were still involved. That's the big thing. That's the big thing. We really don't know how different the casting process will be to how Cubby and then Barbara and Michael did it, because Nina Gold is definitely involved as far as we're aware. She's had obviously lots of dealings with pretty much everybody in the industry, particularly the British casting industry, with all these Game of Thrones and things like that. So it's not like a babyish, Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, who was in the last film, then they're going to be cast. I think this is for this part, for the part of Bond. Ignore all that. Don't think of who was in Stephen Knight's film, plays and miniseries,
Yeah.
like that. Maybe this supporting cast, yes, Denis Villeneuve might want some of his tried and trusted people, and the studio will want big names maybe to sort of fill it up. So I think James Bond is going to be. It could be anybody in terms of that. I don't think they're going to have to be of a certain vintage, a certain level of fame. I just think they need to announce it well. That's the main thing, like we've said. Hopefully not. I mean, can you actually picture the thing is? Can you picture in 10 years' time? Can you remember how Jack Lowden was in Vader's Bond? It was Richard Osman on an English podcast, like as if that's the only thing that's
a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, but of course we had heard his name way before Richard Osman mentioned it, so that wouldn't be.
Yeah, and there've been times like even Pierce Brosnan finding the role. That was one where he's always floating around.
Yeah,
I love what you've said, Tom, and you're absolutely right in everything you've said. And I got shivers down my spine when you said you can picture it. Which is crisp. I like that. Like I say, maybe people aren't necessarily going head over heels with excitement, but there's absolutely no criticism of the suggestion at all. It would seem like a pretty critic-proof casting of James Bond. So maybe it is Jack Lowden, maybe it's not, but it's exciting. It's exciting, and it's another thing that makes us think. Maybe we're getting an idea of what Bond 26 could look like. And the other people who are involved, you've mentioned Nina Gold, but Villeneuve and Knight, they will have a vision as well. They will, want some involvement, I'm sure, or want to have a little bit of knowledge of what the image of Bond is. Because, like I say, I can't imagine it's going to be a James Bond who is bedding women left, right, and centre for no reason. Therefore, might not have to be someone who makes all everyone's heads turn. Maybe this vision for Bond is what is, really matching Jack Lowden's style. The way he would perhaps blend in more. He has been he's played a spy in Slow Horses, and I think he has the look of a spy because he has a bit of a soft and a gentle look to him. But I'm sure he could do some damage. The other side, though, to James Bond is, of course, he is a spy, but of course, the other thing is he's an action hero. He'll have to be like globe-trotting and going around the world attending premieres as an actor as well. So there's just those roles to fulfill as well. I think in terms of looking like a spy, definitely. Maybe let's see in terms of action hero and, embracing the role. But yeah. I don't think I have anything more to add at this moment. It's difficult not to get too carried away, isn't it? But we just thought it would be worth us sharing our
Yeah.
views, our honest views. This is the first time Tom and me have chatted about it. I didn't know what you'd be saying, Tom, when we started this video.
I didn't.
Let's see what happens, shall we?
Yeah, and the next episode, you never know, it might be the
Yeah.
big announcement. Who knows? Who knows? Something's going to be happening by the end of the year. We know that.
If we've seen anything from this production of Bond 26, because we've been anticipating it so much, weeks and months do fly by pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
they do. Yeah.
Between announcements, we've had announcements, and you think, oh, it's not long since our last announcement, but actually, there've been like 2 months and 3 months that have gone by quickly. Things will, pick up speed and gather speed as we get towards the end of the year, and this appointment of James Bond is probably going to be upon us a little bit sooner than we think, which is nice, very nice.
Come on, bring it on.